So thank you once again for joining us for the CESA Gender Mainstreaming webinar for technical women. A quick overview of the program. We're going to have a quick setting the scene from myself. And sure, we are in for some amazing discussions today with our guest speakers, Naomi Naidu and Nokwanda Mbufana. And thereafter, we'll do a Q&A session. Now, delegates, please use the chat box down below for the Q&A. If you don't give us feedback or ask questions in the Q&A, we can't provide the answers. So we'll really appreciate it. If you do, let's make this an interactive session for all of us. So, to start off with, a little bit about myself, the MC. My name is Dr. Andres Nel. I'm a registered professional engineer. I'm a registered project management professional and also a registered professional construction project manager. I hold a bachelor's in mechanical engineering, a master's, and then also a PhD in mechanical engineering with the focus on thermodynamics. I'm currently a director and shareholder of a boutique consulting firm called Spoormaker and Partners, working in the construction sector. And I have won numerous industry awards and also the coveted CESA ION Young Engineer of the Year Award for 2024. Now, I've been involved with several national and international award-winning projects. And I also serve as a member of several voluntary associations. Now, setting the scene, what is the webinar about today? CESA Transformation and Development Committee aims to celebrate technical women and inspire many more to join a team of much needed experts in the engineering field. This webinar is part of our ongoing efforts to raise awareness about women in technical roles and to inspire more women to venture into the field of engineering. Women engineering practitioners are at the forefront of designing roads, bridges, dams, buildings, water and sanitation systems. And you will see that when our guest speakers talk a little bit more about their journeys. Now, participants will gain insights from our technical women who will share their life experiences, their engineering journey, and emphasize the importance of technical expertise and the demand for technical experts. We believe this to be a significant opportunity for our industry and women in engineering to interact and empower each other as they are crucial stakeholders in shaping our future. Now let us take a step back and just have a look. Currently, technical women only make up 16% of the South African engineering profession. Now, why is it important to have women in engineering? Well, engineers are making some of the biggest advances in our society. They are attending to infrastructure challenges such as water, sanitation, and transportation, which is specifically applicable to South Africa. They are attending to the healthcare sector, making biomedical breakthroughs, and providing healthcare and services to rural areas. And they are involved in creating better technologies. If you think of the South African context, renewable energy, such as wind, solar, hydro, which can help the country a lot. Now, all these things impact our lives directly and are there to make our lives better. With more than half of South Africa's population being female, it is critical to include the female perspective, since the solutions will only get better with technical women involved. Now, what about the STEM performance? Well, in a famous study across 65 countries in the world, the same science test was given to boys and girls. And it had been shown that the girls outperformed the boys. This was also the outcome by research published by the Bureau for Economic Research in 2022, showing that South African girls also outperform the boys in the science and mathematics performance tests, indicating that they have exceptional capabilities for science, technology, engineering, and the mathematics. In other words, STEM fields. Now, considering the above, why is it that when the girls grow up, we do not have more technical women in the South African engineering profession? Well, that is why today is so important, is to raise awareness about the technical roles and the immense contribution these technical women have in our country. What are the type of skills that's required to be a technical woman in South Africa? Well, 5 skills come to mind. The first being innovation. You have to solve very difficult problems within a lot of constraints in an unconventional manner. Number 2, communication. You have to be able to speak to all levels within an organization. Number 3, collaboration. You have to be able to work within national and multinational teams, and you have to be able to communicate with them to achieve project goals. Number 4, resilience. One of the most important skills of being able to bounce back and adapt to an ever-changing engineering environment. Number 5, engineering excellence. Being able to find that small golden thread on projects where all the parties are satisfied and the intended project goals are achieved. The last being the X factor. And we're not talking about the TV show here. This is the grit, the entrepreneurship, and the sheer willpower required to remain in these positions through the adversity. Now, what's the type of mindset that's required? We've done the skills. Now, what's the mindset? Well, technical women do not give up, ever, under any circumstance. They have tenacity. They view setbacks as learning experiences, not failures. This is referred to as the growth mindset. And they are actively building support systems, including mentors, sponsors, alliances, and collaborators. And they also harness the power of habit to achieve success. We call this the elephant method, where you tackle large tasks by breaking them down into smaller, more manageable steps. We have an immense opportunity for more technical women to inspire and impact our country. To tell us more about her journey, I'm going to introduce our first guest speaker, Ms. Naomi Naidu. She is a professionally registered civil engineer with CESA. She has 19 years of experience in the industry and is the founding owner of Pink Africa Consulting Engineers. Her expertise lies in providing consulting engineering services in the field of water and sanitation projects. However, she has previously been involved in various other disciplines. As a consulting engineering business owner, she is actively involved in the operations of the business, including procurement of work, management of resources, quality management, and mentoring of candidates. She is also a CESA board member and is avidly involved in other industry structures. Naomi, if you can please show your camera so that our delegates can see your nice smile, and then you can please continue with your presentation.
Thank you very much, Dr. Nell. I just want to confirm that you can see my presentation.
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. Very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and my fellow engineers. I'm really excited today to take you through my journey of my career and how I've got to where I am at the moment. So yeah, I'm going to delve into it. So I'm Naomi Naidu, currently director at Pink Africa Consulting Engineers. Um, I decided when I was in school, since I loved maths, I love technical drawing, challenges, that I wanted to be a civil engineer. And so I studied civil engineering at the University of KwaZulu-Natal. I managed to get a bursary with the Department of Transport. So once I completed my studies, I had to work and fulfill my time at the Department of Transport. But a few months in, they actually seconded me to Naidu Consulting. At the time, Naidu Consulting
Hi,
just
Naomi.
comprised of, yes,
Just
sorry.
apologies. Can you put your full screen? Apologies for that.
Okay, sorry. Is it showing up as a full
Yeah,
screen
if you
now?
can start the slide play.
Okay. Is it visible now?
Not yet. It's still showing all the slides.
Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing and share again.
Okay, thank you. Okay, let's see. Naomi, are you using two screens?
Yes. Is it
Okay.
visible now? Is it showing up?
Yeah, but it's still not on the play mode.
Okay, no, sorry. Let me just stop sharing quickly and share. Okay, I think this should work now.
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so as I said, I started at the Department of Transport, and within a few months, I was seconded to Naidu Consulting. At this point, I was exposed to a lot of roads and stormwater projects, got very involved with the design and the technical aspects of it. And that was where I was introduced to Model Maker. I enjoyed the design aspects thoroughly. I was at the Department of Transport for about 2 years. Then I moved to GOBA. Well, it's called Hatch now, but back then it was known as GOBA. And while I was there, it changed to Hatch GOBA. And I started off in the structures department. I was within the structures department for about a year, and then I moved to the water and sanitation department, where I obtained the bulk of my experience, probably about 7 to 8 years of experience, while at water and sanitation projects at Hatch. I also managed during this time to get a lot of site experience, understanding of contract administration, involved with a lot of feasibility studies. And I think the projects that we were exposed to, a lot of us that worked at GOBA at the time, we were exposed to really good projects that helped us to gain a lot of technical experience. At the time we worked on, it was the 2010 boom with a lot of the airports and the soccer stadiums being constructed. So we got exposure with that. And personally, I managed to get to work on a lot of the major reticulation systems, major bulk and reticulation systems in various parts of KZN and the country as well. And after 8 years, I think it was at Hatch, I moved on to BMK Consulting. At this point, I was slowly moving into a bit of management role. And when I moved to BMK, I was actually employed as the manager for the water and sanitation department, and later on technical director at BMK. But seeing that it was a small company, I was still very much involved with the technical work in terms of checking the work that was sent out and approving and that sort of thing. But a lot of the management skills started increasing, and that exposure also helped me develop on the management side of my career. And then in 2016, I actually decided that I was going to take a break from engineering because I felt like it was a lot of very intense work that was happening throughout. I enjoyed it, but I felt like I needed to have a little bit of a break, and the intention was to go back and work at one of the previous companies maybe. But I founded Pink Africa Consulting Engineers with the intention of just maybe doing some odd contract work where I could. And it started off that way because I did have a lot of the technical background and was able to perform in that role. I was employed, given a contract as part of Pink Africa, and that's how it actually started. But as time went on, I think it became very clear to me that I was enjoying setting the pace at how I worked in my own company, and allowing certain types of work, accepting certain types of work that I enjoyed. So it actually ended up growing from there to the point that it started off with me as a single person in the company, and now we're currently sitting with 12 people in the company. I'm still very much involved with checking and approving certain works, but we do have the relevant technical heads for the different departments that undertake the bulk of the work. But I think my experience from the previous employers really helped me to gain so much of insight on the technical aspects of it that even from a management perspective, I really fully understand the process that happens on the technical side. So if I need to fill in at any point, or I need to come in on any of the other projects, or any of the projects our team's currently working on, it's not difficult for me to step in and contribute where I need to because of my previous exposure to the various technical aspects of it. So I definitely think in my experience, having worked in the different disciplines as well, and being so intensely involved in the technical work, it played a very beneficial role in starting my own company and actually getting it to the point where it is at the moment. So yeah, I'm quite grateful for that exposure that I managed to get during those years. And just a little bit on, sorry. Just a little bit on Pink Africa. We're currently 8 years old, functioning in quite a few disciplines, water and wastewater, infrastructure and planning, traffic and transportation, structural, stormwater design and management, human settlements and urban design, and asset management. As I said, we've got it. This isn't even our full team that you see here. And yeah, we've got our different discipline heads, but and we've got locations. Our head office is in KZN, but we've undertaken work throughout South Africa. Just to touch on some of the impactful experiences during my career, that's I feel has gotten me to where I am at this point. And I think Dr. Nell really touched on some very important factors that I felt resonated with my journey as well. And one of the biggest ones for me was joining CESA Young Professionals Forum. And I think just looking at the outside, on the outset, you just think, okay, how could that be so impactful? But when I first started in engineering, or joined the industry after I graduated, I really didn't understand how the industry worked and what was required. All I really knew was how to calculate open channel flow, how to work out your rebar sizes, and just those theoretical knowledge of what engineering entailed. And I feel being part of the CESA YPF helped me integrate into the industry and as it developed relationships. As you can see there, I mentioned relationships. It helped increase my knowledge of the industry, but not just the industry, also being able to talk to other people. Maybe I couldn't identify with anyone in my workplace, but through this forum, I was able to get in contact with people outside, other females as well, that we could talk about different things and be able to not just develop relationships, but increase my knowledge through this process as well. And I think in doing so, I managed to find what I was actually passionate about. At the start, when I entered the industry, I was not, I felt like I didn't really belong in the industry because it was not, although I enjoyed the technical aspects of it, there was other aspects that I felt that, or maybe I should look at an alternate career. But I think being part of this community of young professionals, it helped me to realize that I am actually passionate about engineering. I just needed to create that environment for myself where I could function optimally. And it also helped me to be more confident to be able to speak up at the workplace if I needed to know more, if I needed to clarify things, and that helped me perform better as well. So I felt like this was really one of the biggest impactful experiences of my career itself. And then just work-wise, it was working on the King Shaka International Airport, which was gave me insight into how such a big project with so many different teams from different companies, consulting and construction, all work together to achieve this common purpose and this common goal, and be working towards it with a specific time frame, a specific goal to achieve. I think sometimes when we're just working on a small portion of a project, you don't really get to see, and you might just be sitting behind your desk and punching in numbers, and you don't get to see the end product. You might not be involved with the clients, or you might not even get a chance to go to site. But this project really sort of opened up so much for me in terms of being able to see this is the end product and the impact it had on everybody, on society and the community around. Everybody was talking about it. So it was really exciting to be part of that project. And I feel like that was one of the very impactful experiences that I had the privilege of being involved with. And then starting my own consulting engineering company was definitely, I think I actually didn't realize what, the risk that I was taking. And after I'd actually gotten into it, I realized that if I had fully understood what I was getting into, I might not have taken it. So it turned out to be a good thing. But in so saying, I'd like to also, emphasize that sometimes when we overthink the risk, we try to play too safe, and we don't pursue something that could really be amazing for us, not just in starting a company, but even in your workspace itself, whatever you might be working on. I think throughout our entire engineering career, I feel like it's been emphasized that you need to follow this guideline, you need to follow the, and correctly so we should, but it kind of then gets us stuck in a box, and we sort of don't explore what are the other options that can be considered for different solutions. I know there's so many other aspects that come in when you have a tight time frame and tight budgets and so on, but I think from the time that you start, from the time I started, I know it was, you come in with the mindset that there's a world of opportunities. And then when you start working, it kind of gets narrowed down by what you are told. And then you start conforming to that. But I think it's important that we get back to how we thought when we first started, and to think we're out to change the world, and always have that in the back of your mind. And I feel like that's really what will keep your passion going as well, and keep you fulfilled in your career, because this is what we do 8 or 10 hours a day. So you don't really want to be doing something you don't enjoy or feel stifled in. So for me, starting a company, I feel just opened up and it got me back to where the reason I started engineering in the first place. So this is, it comes with a lot of other challenges on its own, but because you enjoy it, the challenges are welcomed. And then lastly, the Investec Entrepreneur Program, which I was fortunate enough to get selected for, which took us to, I think on my next slide, I have some pictures on that. It took us to Germany. The Investec sponsored the trip to Germany, where we got to see, in Berlin specifically, we got to meet a lot of other entrepreneurs, well, from South Africa, but also in Berlin itself, where you see the environment is really conducive to entrepreneurship, to innovation, to new technology. And it really showed me specifically that the opportunities are endless. Wherever you are, you can find opportunities. And I think just it's not only applicable to entrepreneurs. There's lots of programs for technical programs offered by various different organizations. And that's something that I think a lot of us are not aware of. Which if we get involved with the different forums, the different organizations, it becomes, it's normally circulated on those forums. So you can use these opportunities to actually grow in your own space, because there's specific ones for somebody that's involved with sustainable development or even in the water sector. There's lots of opportunities, and I think sometimes we get a little cocooned in our office cubicle, and we don't realize that there's so much more out there. And I think that we need to become more aware of what's out there so that we can expose ourselves, say, grow, and actually make very meaningful contributions in our workspace, in our communities, and even in the engineering industry itself. So those are some of the pictures from our YPF, some of my friends that really played very big, impactful roles in my life as we were and my career. And then just some of the role models in the industry, specifically for me. So Peter Boersma, I'm not sure if many of you know Peter Boersma. He was a mentor at the time because he was the manager of the structural department and at GOBA at the time. And I didn't realize in my when I was a junior at that time, actually how big he was in the industry. But from my perspective at the time, it was someone that I admired in terms of how he handled himself very professionally and how he spoke to clients, how he spoke to his own staff, how he spoke to juniors. He was very patient and he created a very enabling environment for people to learn and grow. And one of the things that stood out for me that if we would basically go to site, he'd come back and there'd be 3 or 4 of us that were working on some of his projects, and we would wait to get into his office, and one after the other we would go in and he would just get right into whatever the technical aspect we were discussing or the challenge. And I was so amazed at how he was able to move from one to the other and just like from one project to the next and know exactly what we were talking about. And because he was still, even though he was in this management role, he was still so in tune with the technical aspects of it. And I think that was one of the things that I really, that stuck with me. And I apply in my own company where I'm still able to be involved with the technical aspects where I need to, even though I'm quite very much involved in management of it as well. So for me personally, working, I mean, I've had lots of good mentors, but in terms of inspiring me in the industry, I feel like he was one of those ones that really inspired me. And then the others that are on this list, I never worked with them personally. It was just people I met in the industry. DMZ Naidu, he was the founder of PD Naidu and Associates. And if for those of you who know him, he's quite a fireball and always leaving you with inspirational thoughts and like just eager to move forward and look at what you can do and what's the opportunities out there. So he was one of the people that inspired me as well. And then throughout my career, I've never actually had any managers that were females. I didn't even have any clients at that time that were females. So meeting Lynn Pretorius and Malini Padiachi for me was quite exciting. And I didn't realize how I missed having a female mentorship in my career up to that point, and what a big difference it made. I suppose I didn't realize because I never had anything to really compare to. But once I did meet them and being able to just really talk openly about any challenges or even just general life issues really made such a big difference to me. And they have a very positive outlook, positive attitude to life. So for me, that really helped me and encouraged me to keep on going in the industry. And then the last one on the list is Naomi Mandindi. So the first, I've only actually met her once, but she was so impactful in the time that I did meet her. And she was the CEO at the time for Royal Askinen. And she shared a lot of her experiences in the industry. She's a quantity surveyor, but she shared experiences in the working in the construction industry and how she navigated through it and how she persevered and didn't let any of those things really get her down, but had an end goal in sight. And that really touched me in terms of not paying too much of attention to some of the negative aspects in the industry, but really being focused on what the end goal is that I'm trying to achieve. And in the process, also helping to change the environment itself. So I feel like these were people that really played a role in addition to a lot of other mentors, but specifically in terms of me persevering in the industry, these were some of the people that really played a very big role. I think I'm gonna stop here just in terms of the overview of my career, and I'm gonna hand back to Dr. Nell. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Naomi. Very inspiring, humbling, and it shows what can be achieved in industry. I truly believe that us as South Africans have the best technical people in the world. It might be due to the adversity that we are facing and the challenges, but because of the can-do attitude, competence and perseverance, South Africans are able to make an impact, not only in South Africa, but also globally. So on to our next speaker, Mr. Kwanda Mpofana. About the speaker. She is a wife, a mother of three, a qualified professional civil engineer with over 15 years experience since qualifying at the UKZN. Additionally, she possesses a master's in business administration from the University of KwaZulu-Natal. She now works at the eThekwini Catalytic Project Unit under the Economic Development Cluster as a Senior Program Manager to enable ease of business and economic growth for the city of eThekwini. Ms. Mpofana has been involved in most aspects of engineering infrastructure project cycle, namely preliminary design, detailed design, tender, contract documentation, tender adjudication, contract administration, site supervision, and closeout. In other words, the full project scope. Ms. Mpofana is passionate about leadership, business strategy, strategic planning, and mentorship. Without further ado,
Thank you, Dr. Nell, and good afternoon to everyone. My name is Nokwanda Mpofana. I'm just going to go through my presentation. Okay. In terms of my background, just briefly, I was born and raised in Umlazi here in Durban, where I live currently. Matriculated in 2002 at Grosvenor Girls High School. And my undergraduate studies, I completed them at the University of KwaZulu-Natal, and currently working and live here in Durban with my family. As earlier mentioned, I have 3 kids. In terms of my professional summary, I'll just go through also just my beginnings. So I matriculated in 2002 and applied for civil engineering at UKZN and other universities, but ended up going to UKZN. On my second year, I got a bursary from the South African Race. I actually got a bursary from GMKS, which was Goba Mahloli Keeves and Stein, through the South African Race Relations company. I then, after completing work for the company, which was Goba Mahloli Keeves and Stein, that became Goba Consulting Engineers. It went on to be Hatch Goba, and now it's Hatch Consulting Engineers. I was then, I've also professionally registered with CESA in 2014, and also did my master's in business administration and completed it in 2021. And right now I aspire to actually do my MPhil in development finance. This is more based on where I am right now within my career and where I aspire to be in the future. So as mentioned, graduated and finished my degree in 2006, and the actual graduation was in 2007. So started out in the private sector, where we had I was very fortunate to be in a company that had a very clear path on how they were going to mentor and groom their candidate engineers in order to ensure that they get the experience needed to be good professional engineers, but also following the EXA guidelines and being also encouraged to be able to look out for what you are passionate about within civil engineering. As most of us may know, that civil engineering involves a lot of specialities within the profession. So then I got involved initially in what was called the civils department, which dealt with the design and implementation of the civil infrastructure, your water, sanitation, stormwater, sewer, sanitation, so it's the same thing, roads. So that's the department that I started out in as a candidate engineer, and then moved on to doing some design work, and then became professionally registered. On the next slide, I'll just go through the roles in more detail. But then I moved to so within within Goba at the time, I moved from just candidate engineer, where we first went out to site. They encouraged that, and then coming back to the office and doing more and then starting more on your design work and designing more. For me, it was sewer and stormwater. That was most of the work that I was involved in. A little bit of geometric design and hydraulics in terms of water, but mostly it was stormwater and sewer that I was involved in, using softwares like Civil Designer. That's what I worked with more. And then obviously you're drafting with AutoCAD. And then I moved on to actually managing a project. And that's one of the highlights that one can say within the experience, being able to be involved in what was at the time like rapid growth within the north area of Durban, Umhlanga, Sibaya, the Tonga Hewlett, which was a developer at the time, was actually developing quite rapidly residential, commercial, office parks in that area. So there's an office park called Richside Developments, where Richside Development, where one was involved in designing the stormwater and the sewer for the preliminary designing the stormwater and the sewer for the entire development, and some detailed design on some of the phases. And then I was also was able to be the project manager in implementing that. So doing some contract administration and also being involved while the sites during construction, working with the resident engineer and just being involved throughout the project life cycle on that. And then in other projects, obviously being involved just on the design aspect of those projects. So I think a bulk of my more deep design element when it came about at that time while I was in the private sector. I moved to the water and sanitation department within eThekwini in 2016. And they I think there was another highlight for me, because when you're in the private sector, you're working with certain projects as and when the company gets those projects. But within the city, you basically involve throughout the city. So the scope of involvement just widened to the whole metro. And as I said, I was in the water and sanitation department, in the planning department, and one was exposed to the whole system of the city. You're talking about over 300 reservoirs, over 100 wastewater treatment works, and just involved in essentially the planning side, being able to look at your assets, your life cycle of the assets, planning for the replacement or rehabilitation of those assets, and also just master planning for the city. And then within that, one was also involved in some design. And when I say site experiences, in this case, it was more just involved whenever those certain pipelines or reservoirs were being upgraded, one would be going out to sites and doing your site's inspections, but more with our design department, because I was in the planning department. So there's a design department that did the detailed design, but we would conceptualize the project and do some preliminary work there, and then pass it on to the design department for that full-on detailed design and implementation. Okay, let me move to the next slide. So this outlines what I've just mentioned in terms of the bulk of the work experience that one got from each sector, meaning the private and the public sector. I think within the public sector also, one grew to a point of where I was the department manager, and then that aspect of management then came in terms of the role, so that I can just explain a bit more on how I got to that point. So as a candidate engineer, one worked on site. Basically, I think the first 2 to 3 years of my experience were on site, and just involved in those being an assistant resident engineer, doing quality control, costing, payment certificates, stakeholder engagement, project reporting, and then as an engineer, going back to the office, doing some design work. And I think I've also outlined what I was involved in there. And also that led to my professional registration, which then I continued with contract administration, project management, and then also moved when I was within the city as a senior manager. My work then was more on the team management, capacity building, mentoring, and coaching. But then within that, I would get involved quite a lot with whatever projects that we were doing feasibility studies on. And also there was a lot of operational issues that we would look into and engage with our operational department, and then master planning, as I had mentioned earlier on. So my current position right now, I'm no longer within the water and sanitation department, still within the city, but at catalytic project unit. So I'm a senior program manager in catalytic project unit, and within my region, we are facilitating major developments in terms of ensuring that the developers are able to get the approvals that they needed. So facilitating that and all the stakeholder involvement, and the key things that developers would get bottlenecks on are your infrastructure provisions for their development. So hence my department then has a lot of engineers, because it makes it easier for us to be able to assist developers and their consultants in what is required from the city, and being that interface between the city and the developer. But also part of the work that I do now is actually unlocking bulk infrastructure for the city in order to get developers into the city and get investments into the city. And so that entails looking at the bottlenecks within the city, and most of the time, the biggest bottlenecks are your large scale, for example, wastewater treatment works upgrades, or reservoir construction that will be required before a certain development is allowed to come in. So in unlocking, we then do things like sourcing funds, applying for bulk, what we call BFI, fund for infrastructure, for bulk infrastructure, and doing, it goes even to a point where we do cost benefits analysis for developments, and try and get if those developments are viable or not, and looking at even the investment opportunities in terms of blended finance, because in most cases, especially right now, we can't expect all projects to get grants. So with private developers, they bring a certain amount of investment, but you'll find that it's not enough to cover the full scale of those bulk infrastructure projects. So we do those finance sourcing and looking at blended financing for projects in order to get them to be realized. And the upfront cost requirements are usually quite large. And when you look at the big scale developments that we work with, they're mostly in phases. So developers, it becomes difficult for developers to actually fund those large projects, because at the beginning, they're only just looking at developing the first phase, and that first phase then will give rise to the other phases as and when market demands come in. So we come in as the units to try and fast track that unlocking of infrastructure, so that those other phases can follow on quicker, but also just to enable those type of large scale developments to happen in the city. So the next two slides are more just to get to initiate the discussion around the need for the technical expertise within the country. And obviously in this case and in our discussion today is to encourage the female experts to actually stay on those roles, and how important it is to have those technical expertise within our country, and working within the various whether it's private or public, or within different spheres of government. So when you look at the current state of our infrastructure as a country, In most cases, we basically have aging infrastructure, and we at a point where we are finding some of the critical components being at the end of their lifespan. And in a built-up environment, you really need technical skills to be able to design and also implement the replacement of those elements, and be able to be involved in also rolling out those projects and prioritizing the rollout of those projects. The resource challenges that we have in terms of the water and the energy, it talks to the need for more sustainable thinking in terms of the solutions that are required, that the conventional ones cannot only be the solutions that we look at, the need for looking at alternative water sources and energy sources, and also how we still work with what we have, improve and work within what we have, and the best way of doing that and ensuring sustainability and resilience for future demands. And I think also it talks to technical experts being able to also provide solutions when it comes to how we manage our demands, energy and water demand, and how we reduce it, and how we also save on what we are losing, for example, in terms of water loss and energy loss. I think that talks to the importance of sustainable technical solutions, and then also ethical leadership within the space, technical ethical leadership. They need to ensure that because there's, as a country, we don't have it, there's just not enough money to be able to solve all the infrastructure problems that we have. So it's just being able to have those expertise that will be able to design solutions, and also the costs to that, and choose the best solutions cost-wise, but also sustainable-wise. And then budget priorities, I had already touched on that. And then the roles of the technical experts and why they need it, I think I've already touched on that. So I'm gonna just, I think maybe one of the things that one can say in terms of my impactful experiences within my career is being involved in while I was still at Hedge Goba, I was involved in the integrated rapid public transport network, the eThekwini and Msunduzi. And at that time, it was inception stages. So one was involved in the preliminary design of the network. So that was quite exciting, and I really enjoyed working on those projects and conceptualizing the network. And as I sit right now within the city and work with the Transport Authority a lot, it's quite good to see that those networks that we had conceptualized being planned, and some of them being implemented, some of them being planned to be implemented. So that's quite exciting. I think another thing was joining the city. I think I mentioned that, and my MBA was also another added knowledge in my case when it comes to leadership and operations, and being able to manage a team, being able to, excuse me, within my technical knowledge, being able also to learn to create a thriving and a good team, and working with different people, different personalities, capacity building, talent management, and research. I think that there's some research aspects there, so that was impactful. I'm going to stop there for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Nokwanda. Wow. That's all I can say is wow. These technical ladies are prime examples of what can be achieved and in industry. We're going to move on to the questions and answers session. We've been receiving some excellent questions from the delegates. We can definitely see everybody's been listening properly. Now, I can tell you all, Nokwanda, if you're fortunate enough of having kids, it doesn't just take a village, it takes everything you have. And while studying and working is an immense task. So if all of the speakers, Naomi and Nokwanda, can please switch on your cameras, and then we'll head into the questions and answer session. First question. Hi, Naomi. Thanks for sharing. What was it like growing your client base, and how did you go about gaining their confidence?
Thank you, Dr. Nell. So I'm going to go back to what I mentioned about being involved with the CESA YPF and developing relationships through this forum, being able to interact with various various people in different organizations and at different levels, not just other young professionals, but also those that are much more senior. And through that engagements that ensued through the years, not thinking much of it, it was just something that I enjoyed doing, actually paid off quite a bit when I started the company, because it was such that when people already knew me, they had sort of already understood my work ethic, they had the trust in me and what I could produce. So it circumvented, it curtailed that whole process of them trying to understand if I can actually do the work or not. And it also, they were already comfortable with working with me. So it definitely helped having a lot of the previous relationships developed as, in the previous years. I think that was one of the biggest factors in Pink Africa being successful. And then from there, also staying involved with a lot of in other industry organizations rather, and participating where you need to. For example, if there's a school talk that needs to happen, a university, be part of it. And that's how you actually get out there. And I'm not a big fan of saying this, building your brand, but that is really what it is. Because I don't think of it as just myself. I think of us as the company as a collective. But that is actually how it happens, and how people get to know you. That's how people get to trust you. They understand you and they become comfortable. A lot of the work that we do in the industry is about relationships. So I think that was the biggest starting point with getting clients on board. And I really didn't go out and get clients. They actually came to me at the start. And then thereafter, as we grew, I got to understand the procurement process and how we would go about with partnering with different people who might have the required experience for a particular tender or submission. So even that played a role, people wanting to partner with you. You may not have the company experience to offer, but they know you as a person and how you work and your team, so they're willing to partner with you on certain projects. So I think the idea of relationships is very underestimated. And obviously, once you produce the quality work, your clients will most of the time come back because they want, at the end of the day, the work to be done well. So that's something we try to maintain on every project that we work on, so that the clients return. Yeah, I think in a nutshell, that's how we get the client base going.
Excellent. Thanks, Naomi. And then the next one, we're going to direct at Nakwanda. Have you ever encountered micromanagement in your career? And if so, how did you handle it?
Fortunately for me, no, I haven't. I know many people that I have, but for me personally, I truly haven't. From the beginning, I've worked with people that have, I guess, trusted me. And I guess I never gave the reason for me to be micromanaged. I have to say, though, I have to say also that, similar to Naomi, I haven't had a female supervisor, which is quite disappointing, but I'm hoping that now moving on, more and more females are getting to positions of supervising and managing people, which I have also. With that was just a side note. But what I wanted to say is that obviously micromanagement, some people are just micromanagers that's the way they are, that's the type of managers that they are. And I think if you are dealing with such, I think I would advise probably is to just give your manager or your supervisor confidence in how you do your work, and them being able to get to a point where they can trust that when they give you a task, you complete it and you complete it within the timeframes that they expect you to. So that means then maybe in the onset, being very clear of your task and what you need to deliver, and also agree on the time frames with your manager so that you are able to know what they are and be able to keep to them. And when they come to you before that time, you are able to remind them that you are working on it and you're still within the time that you've agreed with, and they must just have confidence that you will do it when you do. And I guess then with time, as you prove yourself that you do deliver, and you do communicate also if there's any bottlenecks or problems that you reach, that you actually go to them and ask for help and communicate, they can probably ease off. You'll find that they may ease off. Hopefully they will ease off. But I would say being clear on deliverables, timeframes, and constant communication with your manager. And when I say communication, I know in our days, we do like emails and phone calls, but there's just something about getting up and going to your manager to ask for insights, advice, or help, or going to your peers or your colleagues to ask for, assistance and what their thoughts are on what you're working on and what you're seeing the solution to be. Just that physical, movement and going and meeting people face to face. Also, for some reason, it gives confidence to your supervisors that, this person is reliable. The more they see you coming to them without them constantly going to you, it gives them that assurance that if they need something or they're stuck with something, they'll come to me. So yeah, let me just end there.
Thank you, Nakwanda. That is some very good advice. The next question is for you both. Naomi, maybe you can start with this one. It's about challenges. And the question is, what has been the greatest challenges that you've experienced and how did you overcome it?
Okay, I think for me, one of the greatest challenge, well, I didn't think of it as a great challenge, but one of the things that I considered was a little bit of a challenge was just trying to fit in, so to speak, in the, because the industry this was when I first started, and trying to understand exactly where I fitted in. But I kind of realized No, let me just give you a little bit of background to what I was thinking at the time, because you get into this workplace and everybody already knows everyone, and they settled in their jobs. They know what it is. The managers know everybody's working there, and it's like you have to now start this whole process of developing relationships. And I think the best approach the approach that I took was eventually to put my foot forward and like put my hand up for every task that came up. Even a simple one, the same program that Nakwanda was talking about at GOBA when we for the PR registration, professional registration, and someone needed to just like sort of manage it and update it regularly. So I put my hand up for that, and wherever I could, so that I myself developed that confidence, if you can say, to be able to step up for situations. And the people around that noticed it, and then they would, when certain projects came up and they wanted you to manage it, or get involved, they would call me, and they recognize that it's almost that you can change your own environment. That's what my lesson was. And I took it forward into every place that I worked at. It doesn't matter what's happening or what everybody else is saying around you. And it might be that it is not the best work environment, but you have the ability to change it. And how you influence other people that you work with. So I think for me, that was like the challenge, the work environment and the workspace and just getting familiar with it. But once I realized, everybody's also going through their own little struggle, and you can't just expect that everything's going to be a bed of roses or, an easy path. Then things really, really started getting much better. I felt like it was you literally just change your environment completely when you change your own sort of attitude and own thinking towards how you approach any situation.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Naomi. Comes back to the mindset. Changing your mindset can change a lot of things. Nokwanda, over to you. What has been the greatest challenges and how did you overcome it?
For me, personally, as a engineer, I would guess then female engineer, starting out was, I think, similar to Naomi in terms of relationship building. It took me a while to be able to be comfortable with building relationships, and it was male dominated. For a good number of years, I would be the only female in the table. I think on the jobs that I worked on in the township establishment jobs that I mentioned within the north areas of Durban, I basically was the only female all the time in all those projects. So it was difficult to kind of engage and be more confident and free to speak what I believe in, what my probably whenever there's a comment or solution that's needed, it took time for me to actually be confident in actually voicing out what my thoughts were on certain issues and certain things. And sort of like you would find yourself just being comfortable behind your male manager, but with time I think and when especially when I was managing, where I was the one then not having really anyone to fall back behind, I needed to just really be confident and just be able to take that authority in leading those projects. And then in terms of the work, I would say it's just interfacing with different people, and there's a lot of stakeholder engagement involved in our profession when you're working at any project internally within a project, and then obviously externally having to deal with different people. For example, this one instance when I was working on the rich site development, it was a development that was new. So we were building roads and infrastructure and civil infrastructure services, but there were also hotels coming out within the same vicinity. And we needed to integrate quite closely with the project managers and the site agents for those specific developments also, and getting to have a communication strategy, in, if I should say so, a way of engaging, so that we do not become a bottleneck for each other's projects. So that was a challenge for me. And in some cases, you would have to really speak up and be firm on what you need to say in order to be heard and be respected and acknowledged. And I think maybe it does go in hand with what I had said before, but sometimes even when you've reached your confidence, some people are still not confident in what you're saying, or just overlook you. So that was one of the things that I would find myself coming across on some of the construction projects that I was involved in, and just needed to be a bit more firmer and just emphasizing certain things at those specific times. And yeah, I think it worked well. Projects were completed. So, but it's a continuous thing now and again, because you meet different people, and you meet the types of people that you've dealt with in the past, you meet them again in the future, and it just takes for you to continually reinforce those things about yourself. Thank you.
Thank you, Nokwanda. I fully agree. Communication is key. If you've done a couple of projects with the French and the Portuguese, and you start to get language barriers as hurdles, things really become interesting on projects. So to finish it successfully in the end is a lot of hard work, but it can be done. Okay, Naomi, the next one is if you can share a few tips on how, as a female, we can confidently navigate the industry to realize our full potential.
Okay, I think the biggest one is just be yourself. Don't try to be somebody else, or because the whole point is that of you being in the industry is so that we can have access to what you have to offer, as you know, based on who you are, the female, where you come from. That feeds into the diversity that we're looking for. So for me, the biggest thing is don't try, and it happens where you feel like you want to fit in, and thereby you decide, okay, maybe I need to change and speak a certain way or do a certain thing. And I'm not talking about being professional, because that we all need to be, but in terms of your character, the solutions you're putting forward, don't try to be generic or similar to what everybody else is doing. Be confident and free to actually put forward something that you're thinking. Don't pay too much attention to the fact that you might be a female surrounded by a lot of males in the industry, or you might be the only one in that room. Don't think of yourself as different. Just think of yourself as yourself and put forward whatever you need to do. Because that's what we're trying to harness. In order to come up with the best solutions, we need that diversity, and we need the way that you are able to think, the solutions you are able to put forward from your perspective. I think that's the best sort of advice. That's what's worked for me. Even when you as a dealing with clients that might be, a lot of clients are male. For me, the biggest thing, I think, don't overthink that now this person is, he's not going to work well with me because I'm female. You have to just sort of go with the flow, in the sense that if it's some criticism that comes your way, look at it objectively and identify if any portion of it is true. If it is true, then address it in your life. If it's not true, then let it go by. That way, you are also growing and not getting really affected by any naysayers or things that might come your way. And I think that was I saw one of the questions that mentioned how did I come up with the name Pink Africa? And that was one of the reasons, because it's male dominated and you're very conscious about not trying to be maybe too girly or too, you need to be one of the guys. Although it's not, no one tells you specifically that you need to do this, but you sort of get the feeling that you need to. And I felt that putting out a name like this is almost being bold to say, I'm proud to be, as a female, I'm proud to be in this industry, and I am able to function as all other companies can function, being female. So I think that was the thinking behind it, to just be bold as a female. Don't try to fit in with everybody else in that sense. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Naomi. Be bold. That is one of the key words. Be authentic, and then be confident in what you are doing. We have some excellent delegates here today. They are posing very difficult questions. The next one, Nokwanda, for you. I'm going to read the entire one because it's worded very nicely. The delegate is saying, "Hi, Ms. Nokwanda. This might sound like a bit of a cliche, but you are truly a superwoman in my eyes. And I'm really curious, how do you manage the balance between wifing, mothering, and your career in engineering? You've also studied for your MBA and are professionally registered. I'd love to hear about your approach to managing all these responsibilities and how you maintain such an inspiring balance."
Wow. First, thank you for the compliment. Although I don't think I'm a superwoman, but I try to be, or aspire to be. I mean, I think firstly, to just be honest, I mean, I professionally registered just after I got married, so I had no kids at that time. So maybe one advice that I may give then is, if we have any young engineers in the room, is that just get as much experience as you can get while you have less responsibilities on your personal life. I think maybe to also answer some of the questions that I saw in terms of how do I ensure that I get professionally registered, is that from the onset, get hold of what CESA requires in order to professionally register. Obviously, you wouldn't have done everything that they require at that point, but it's important to know what you need to do in order to be able to get your application through. So I actually registered at what they call the legacy route in the past, where now it's completely different. I think now there's 9 extra outcomes that you need to prove that you have. So it's just going through those outcomes and ensuring that you do the work that talks to that, and being bold enough to go to your managers and actually ask for that type of work. Because most companies, if not all, one of the key things that they always say is that we mentor engineers in order to be professionally registered. It's very important for us to make sure that we do that. So it's important then for you, when you see that you are not being given those opportunities that will help you to get registered, you go out and ask for those opportunities, and be respectively aggressive about it. So I'm assertive, maybe, if one may say. There's a word that I want there, but I'm not finding it. So just push to really get the experience that you need within your company. And when people that you work under see the map that you aspire to you clearly outlining that map, that ideally this is where I would like to be in order to reach this goal that I have. It's important. So I registered before I had kids, but my MBA, yes, I had 2 of my kids. So it's a support system is important. I wouldn't have been able to do it, and even today, I wouldn't be able to do what I do without a good support system. And fortunately for me, I do have someone that helps me with the kids. And my husband is a great partner and a supporter. And it could be even your parents in your case, in other people's cases, siblings, friends. So make use of that village in your life. They did not only help you to grow up, but now they're gonna help you to be the superwoman that you want you to be. So make use of that village in your life, and know that you need them in order to do what you can. Because the demands of being a professional woman in any industry requires for you to have support at home so that you can still be a good mother to your kids. There is a lost opportunity. I work from 8 to 5. I'm losing opportunity with my kids after school in terms of taking them to their sports, in terms of sitting down and doing homework with them. And that's the loss that I've said, okay, I will have, and I've accepted. But then there's a place where I then say, when it comes to these, I must be there for them. So just for professional women to understand that there are lost opportunities in terms of being a mother that you will lose, that another mother probably has. And you decide what you're willing to lose and what you're not willing to lose. And then, you make use of that support system in your life. And discipline is so important. I remember when I was doing my MBA, after work, at that time, I was attending after work. And then when I was doing my research, where I had no courses, I would stay an extra 2 hours, and I would literally go out of the office just to reframe my mind and come back in so that I focus on my research. So I guess that would be what they term being fully present on wherever you are, trying by all means. Let me put it like that, but because sometimes you can't, sometimes we fail, but try by all means to be fully present at work so that when you get home, you can be fully present at home and not think about work. And when you're studying, you can just be fully present on your studies. So try by all means to not let one infiltrate on another. Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks, Nokwanda. What I've taken from that excellent advice is perseverance, to continue always, to decide what you want to sacrifice, because it's not always possible to juggle everything. So decide on the sacrifices. And then it not only takes a village, but maybe a city to let the kids grow up. So make sure that support system is in place, and you have people supporting you and supporting one another, and also empowering one another. All right, I think we have time for 2 last questions. Naomi, let's start with you. The one question that keeps coming up that the delegates are asking is, would you do anything differently in your journey up to date?
I think the only thing I would do differently is enjoy it from the beginning instead of thinking too much about the aspects outside of engineering itself, because that is what got me into engineering, my passion for engineering, and I missed opportunities of really enjoying it at the beginning and learning more. I wish that I had actually gotten more knowledge at the beginning in terms of understanding not necessarily how the like technical aspects. I feel like getting that insight quicker would have helped me a lot more. But yeah, eventually I got there. But I think, yeah, enjoying the journey from the beginning and making the most of it.
Thank you, Naomi. Nokwana, over to you.
Sorry, Dr. Nel, can you repeat that question?
The question is, would you do anything differently in your journey up to date? Is there anything you would change?
I think the only thing for me would be just being more, just relaxing a bit more, especially at the beginning, being less anxious and nervous. Just relaxing, because I found that a lot of people, when you are just a graduate, have grace to understand that you're a graduate, and a lot of people are willing to teach you within any work environment. It's only, there are cases obviously that are different, but they're very few and far in between. In most cases, you will get into a company that with people that are willing to help. They know that you don't know everything. I know you feel like you should know everything because you've just qualified, but there's a lot that you would not know after qualifying, and there's a lot that you would be doing that is totally different from what you were studying in university. So just be kind to yourself, be patient with yourself, and relax, and just be willing to learn, be willing to take on some work, and be willing to do as much as you can in your early years. Speak out, don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to look stupid, because you will gain, at least you will come out knowing what you didn't know, or what you were confused about. So yeah, just having patience with yourself, relaxing, and enjoying the journey. Yeah, I think Naomi put it well on that one. Yeah.
Perfect.
Thanks.
Thank you, Nokwanda. Thank you, Naomi. Delegates, that's all that we have time for today. I'm going to do the closing. So as a father of two future technical women, I'll leave you with these two quotes. Women bring diversity to engineering industries that can help solve problems faster and more effectively. Innovation comes from change. So be the change. Change starts with you. And then you can do anything you decide to do. Last words, the presentations will be available on the CESA website, and then the full presentation will be broadcasted on CETV. So for those delegates who would like to go through the presentations again, it will be available online. Thank you all so much for attending. Have a great afternoon.